All right, howdy folks. Let's review. We are working towards our stackable food projects. We talked about stacking food items together. We are concerned with design principles like emphasis, movement, balance. We also talked about if I stack these type of things, I might want to use some clay. This clay will act as kind of a holder so I can do things that these wouldn't normally do. When I do my regular clay items, I can also glue these later. We talked about, let's say this is basically a cone or a triangle. I can cut that triangle so it sits in there and I can glue it after it's glazed and fired the second time. So I'm stacking these up. I'm taking a phone picture. And then I'm sending this picture to my email or somewhere that I can print it from. I can also do this at home. If I don't have a bunch of stuff like this at home, remember this stuff can be full also. Mine is empty. You can use mine for one of your 4 pictures that you need to do. Those pictures then get printed here or at home. There's an example. Remember, you can stack up your lunch, you can stack up your Dunkin' Donuts this morning, you can stack up any kind of food items. You can also add non-food items that are, as we talked about, like Klaus Oldenburg, an association of form, an object that is the same shape but a different object as your food item, or a surprise element, something that relates to you in some way but isn't normally there with these other items. So we have that. Then you're going to add color, shading, and you're really just tracing these with tracing paper so you can see this whole vision of your project all the way forward. And you're doing 4 so that you can really experiment. We're going to try and push our creativity levels. For some of you, maybe you don't have your phone with you, maybe you don't have a phone. Maybe you don't want to use my items. You can look on Pinterest or Google, maybe Google image, and you can find things you might like. We talked about this in class. We kind of came up with some random items. I look up milk and I come up with some different ideas that look pretty creative. The next step, basically that first step in creativity, is just putting items together that weren't together before. Very simple level creativity. Next, I'm moving on to placing these items. Once I have them on the paper, I can trace them however I want. So I can trace whatever parts of them that I want. So this was our original list from one class. I started tracing these items, and then sometimes things we think about are, if I'm going to trace these and I want this more exciting, maybe I can turn it upside down. So I'm starting to play with that creativity angle. What would be a little more interesting? I kind of left the wheels out. I just didn't want those in. I'm thinking about color and glazes for the future down the road with my project. That's a high-level creativity type of thing. Planning and thinking about the future, the future of your project. Thinking about what color it will be, how you will create it. So that's kind of moving into those higher levels of creativity. I thought this one would look pretty cool if it went sideways. We're not worried about whether this will balance. I'm not worried that this will or won't balance on the fish. I'm going to deal with that later. What I'm trying to do is just be the most creative artist that I possibly can. So in this room, we want to be creative. We also want to be school appropriate with all our ideas. One student had something like a lighter. It's not really school appropriate. Then we switched to a dragon. So we could do fire-breathing dragon instead of a lighter. Maybe we can combine that with other items that we've printed and looked for. These are kind of regular. But again, when you search for things, especially like Pinterest, Google Images is okay. We talked about Google basically being like your brain. When you think about something, we want to stay away from cliche items. So when your brain says stacking food, it thinks of all the things it normally thinks of. So Google's kind of like that too. When you tell it, find me milk, it basically finds you what it thinks you want to find. So you have to start to be smarter than Google and start to be smarter than the images and start to broaden out what your ideas can be so that your ideas are more creative. So again, taking pictures, printing, combining pictures and making them more creative. Thank you.